Hi, I'm Corey Mack, CEO and Head of Design of LaForge Optical, and this is Don't Ask When. Today we're going to focus on the history of LaForge, how we kind of got started. It's not truly a product or project update, but it does sort of let people put the context of what LaForge Optical is in terms of the amount of time that's passed, put it in context with some other companies that you may have heard of so that you see what's really different and similar about what it is. So let's just hop into it. So LaForge Optical was actually an offshoot of a couple projects that I was doing back when I was an undergrad in college. For those you don't know, I went to school at the Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, New York. I studied mechanical engineering technology. So a project that I was doing back in 2010 was on this smart disaster relief, this disaster relief smart home concept. And it was really about getting a really quick way, a really efficient and inexpensive way for people to find their loved ones and to get shelter after disaster. We attempted to build some prototypes. I got some press around campus, but because there were no disasters going on, we had to move on. So what we started thinking about, some of us who were working on this, was like, hey, wouldn't it be really cool to have a smart house that you could use anywhere and everywhere, basically separate from your phone? And so the first project that I was looking at was this thing called the Mirage Project. So that's the precursor to Shima, ISIS, whatever you want to call it. And what was cool about Mirage was it was going to be this really futuristic visor thing, but I had issues with getting the optical theories to work. If it doesn't work on paper in optics, it will never work in real life, and this definitely didn't work on paper. So we then took a look at it. I visited some factories and I said, hey, let's look at making this like a pair of glasses. So what we ended up doing then was saying, hey, how are lenses made? We could get the optics to work like this. I was actually literally doing some experiments in my bathtub trying to figure out, hey, where's the light coming from? Things like that. And then we figured it out. So that was called Mirage 2. I then went to some of my friends from RIT, spoke to them about it, and we went to this restaurant on Park Ave called Gines, and I basically made it this top secret thing and bought them all breakfast. And I said, this is the project I need your help with. I'm a materials guy. I need an electronics guy. I need a software guy to help me out with this, and also someone to sort of manage the project for us. So we built that. We did that. We ended up building this thing. This is the very first LaForge optical prototype that we built. It's pretty rudimentary. We'll have the camera just sort of get in on this later, but it's pretty rudimentary. We have a big display here. We have prism optics here, and this was our first proof of concept. You'd be able to put these on, and these are just little glasses from like Rite Aid or Walgreens, something like that. And when someone would basically tweet a specific Twitter account, you would see that tweet come up about 5 seconds later. This, believe it or not, is the precursor of what would become LaForge Optical. Once I proved I was able to build a team that can make this, I had the confidence to go out and start looking for other support and other investors. So it's a long way between, this guy, our first prototype, and this really cool guy, which is our latest prototype here. So once we built this first prototype here, I moved to Boston and then basically started talking to different law firms. I went to the Cambridge Innovation Center, which where a lot of startups in the Boston area worked at a Voltage Cafe, and a few other places. And then people started asking what I was doing, and I started building interest around, hey, there's this guy. He's working on this thing. The name of his company is LaForge. A bunch of people, by the way, think that LaForge is a reference to a Star Trek character. I could sort of see where that comes from, but it's actually not. By the way, LaForge actually is just a word I made up when I was in Rochester. So it comes from the French word LaForge, there, which means the glass forge. We make glasses. And so I sort of made up this term and we dropped the there part off because basically when I was in Rochester, you had Xerox, you had Kodak. I wanted something with two syllables. One of my buddies from RIT also said, just add optical on it because no one knows what the hell a LaForge is. So that's how the company became LaForge Optical. So anyway, we skip forward to Boston in 2013, 2014. We get some press with the Boston Globe on one of their blogs, Scott Karshner's blog. And then we also got invited to talk on Fox Business News about what we were doing with this product, which was at the time called ISIS. ISIS was much more closer to this in the sense it was thicker, bulkier, those sorts of things. And then, of course, everyone knows why you can't call a product ISIS anymore. So we basically canceled that. So anyway, around that time, I was actually just trying to figure out, hey, if we're gonna market this product, what sort of blog should we be talking to? And in this, I'm just basically contacting literally about 150 different blogs out there. And one of them had actually, I think maybe just read it a little too quickly, but VentureBeat actually ran basically an article about us, and we weren't even aware of it going on. So I'm on my way driving from Boston to my parents' house in North Carolina, and my phone is going insane, my email's going insane, our website's down. At that point, we only got about 8 page views a month, and we got about 150 or so in a day, and that brought our website down. So a bunch of people were just like, "Hey, dude, I'll just give you some money to, tell me what I need to do to get this thing off the ground. It seems really cool. I know you're just starting." So I just said, "Hey, I'll put up a payment gateway. You just pay $200 and we'll finish it whenever. I'll promise you some updates every now and then." And that actually seeded the company. Believe it or not, it was just a blog and me doing these experiments looking for investors in Boston. Candidly, not many investors in Boston really cared because it's more of a business to business and medical town, and everyone's afraid of Google. Google had Glass, and Glass was blowing up in a very bad way in the sense of a lot of bad press coming out. So people were afraid to do it to help us out. But anyway, we did that. We took those funds, we put into an Indiegogo campaign. The goal was to raise $80,000 to build, the next set of prototypes that maybe we could impress some investors with. So about 3 days into it, we got halfway to our goal, which is candidly pretty successful and hard to do. But then we got phone calls from some investors. So we canceled it, and then we gave everybody their money back. And the campaign was only about a week into it, and we just canceled and gave everyone their money back. That, strangely enough, bothered a lot of people. And we said, we'll get you on the back end. And then also, coincidentally, the investors went away. So at that point, we were in what's commonly known in the startup world as deep shit. We had just given back $40,000, and the investors we thought we had didn't really materialize. But believe it or not, all the hype from VentureBeat and the Indiegogo campaign, us pulling it and getting press for just doing the crazy idea of pulling it, got us invited to an eyewear conference in New York, where I was part of a panel of people from Avegant, Athier, Glass was supposed to be part of it, but they couldn't handle being next to startups, so they had their own separate thing. And what was it? There's a few other ones that are out there that don't really exist anymore, but we were all sharing the stage talking about our experience as startups. And it was at that meeting I met the team that would later become the team to build LaForge Optical and introduced us to our investors. So once we got our first investors towards the end of 2014, we started working on building prototypes of the lenses. Something I really do want to reiterate here is LaForge Optical is a company that designs processes to make lenses, and we also design lenses, again, with embedded optics inside of them. A lot of people put us in the category of IoT. We're not quite IoT. We're not quite wearable tech. Again, anyone who knows me well knows that I think wearable tech is like saying edible food. That should be the point. It shouldn't be the sort of advertising metric of it, if that makes some sense for you. But we're really also this really cool hybrid of not quite fashion, not quite tech, and not quite basically a flow of basically streams of wireless data. Anyway, we built a really compelling prototype with some of those funds. We spent about $15,000 on that, and then that prototype got us another $1 million of investment. So that gets us to about 2015. As we're getting through 2015, we start saying, hey, let's tell people about this. We're not doing another crowdfunding thing, but let's say, hey, in about a year from now, let's have enough assets for people to be able to pre-order or order these things and put their prescriptions. So we started building that. About a year later, we pushed this stuff out. We worked with Karen Ching on which Karen Ching's been actually putting out quite a few magazines recently. She's like an advertising and marketing genius. So I'll put her link below. But basically, she helped us make this really crazy viral video of talking about things going through time, and then a more literal one just explaining what the product is. We candidly thought it was only going to get 250,000 views tops. We were completely shocked when our video got 6 million views in about 3 days. And then with repost over the course of the following week or so, it got another 3 million views. So uh, as strange as this might sound, we wanted to go viral. We just didn't think it was going to go that viral, which is a good sign since that people understood what it was. But now that we had more pre-orders coming in, we really had to work really hard, and we started working with a more and more diverse group of suppliers trying to help us get these things fixed. Again, no one's going to wear this big bulky thing. Or I'll say no one. Someone likes this. They like to tinker. But what we're really trying to do is get things that are closer in form factor to these. Again, something that's very thin, very lightweight. Again, this has everything in it, by the way. So that is basically what got us to 2017, and most of last year was spent reorganizing the company, getting us out of R&D mode, as well as basically looking at new hires and how we're going to finance the company in the future. So here we are. It's 2018. We're about halfway through the year. We've made a few of these working prototypes here for people to try out. A few people on the pre-order list have tried them out. We're going to be shipping them out relatively soon. Again, do want to reiterate with everyone that this is a sort of open, but not, you do have to pay you did have to pay to participate in this, but it was an open experiment to figure out what kind of product would fly in the wearable sort of space. And what we determined is this: it needed to be a really nice looking pair of glasses. It needed to be lightweight. That was kind of obvious for us, not so much obvious for Google and others. But as time went on, we've been actually collecting data in the version of surveys from people determining what these frames should look like. A little bit of that, more of that detail was in our previous video. But the deal is this, is that we're here, we're committed. We've got a few more really big announcements to make before the end of the year, and we look forward to doing that. Again, we always appreciate the support and kind words of our earliest supporters and those that put money down for pre-orders. Again, we do always apologize for delays, but again, this is a bit more of an experiment than a bona fide product launch. And again, we also do appreciate our trolls for keeping us accountable, and with some of them keeping us entertained. So if you like this video, this explanation of how we got started at LaForge, what's been going on over the past few years, the 3 years it's been as LaForge, and the 2 years in the run-up to making LaForge Optical, hit the like button or subscribe. And if you don't like this, you don't like me, you don't like my hair, you think I'm full of crap, hit the like button really, really hard. Thank you for your time.